If you think this is just another horror story, you're welcome to come and take the mirror for yourself. But don't say I didn't warn you. Have you ever looked into a mirror and felt like something wasn't quite right? Like, for just a second, your reflection didn't move the way it should have? Today, we have a story from one of our subscribers. A story about a mirror that wasn't just reflecting reality, but something else. Something that watched. Something that wanted out. If you think you've heard every horror story about mirrors, trust me, this one will make you think twice before looking into the glass again. Let's begin. I wasn't looking for a mirror. I had just moved into my new place. A small, quiet house on the outskirts of town. Nothing fancy, just enough space for me and the kind of peace and quiet I had been wanting for years. I was still settling in, getting used to the silence. That day, I had stopped by a local thrift shop, mostly out of boredom. It was one of those cluttered places where everything was stacked on top of each other, dusty shelves filled with things people had forgotten. I was browsing through some old furniture when I saw it. The mirror. It was tall, maybe 6 feet, with a thick, dark wooden frame that looked hand-carved. The glass had a slight tarnish to it, like it had been sitting somewhere untouched for years. But there was nothing wrong with it. No cracks, no strange symbols, nothing that screamed haunted antique. Just a mirror. I don't know why I bought it. It wasn't even that cheap, but something about it just felt right for my new place. The kind of thing that would fit perfectly in the hallway. The old man at the counter barely looked up when I brought it over. "That's an old one," he muttered. "Yeah?" I asked, half interested. He nodded but didn't say anything else. I figured he was just trying to make conversation. I loaded it into my car and drove home. The whole way there, I kept glancing at it in the rearview mirror. Every time I did, for some reason, I felt this weird little urge to look longer. Not because I saw anything strange, just a feeling like the longer I looked, the more I'd notice something off. I shook it off. Once I got home, I carried it inside and leaned it against the wall in the hallway. It looked good there, made the space feel bigger. That night, before heading to bed, I passed by it one last time. For some reason, I stopped and looked at myself for a moment longer than usual. My reflection looked normal. Tired, a little unkempt from moving things around all day, but nothing weird. Still, I remember feeling just a little uncomfortable as I turned off the light and went to bed. Like I had left something unfinished. Like I should have kept looking. The next few days, I barely thought about the mirror. I worked, came home, ate, and went to bed like usual. The house was quiet, the way I liked it. But at some point, I started noticing little things. The first time it was subtle. I was walking past the mirror one evening when I felt a weird hesitation, like something in my reflection wasn't quite right. I stopped and looked at myself. Everything seemed normal, but the longer I stared, the more I had this uncomfortable feeling that I wasn't looking at a reflection, but it's something imitating me. I told myself I was being stupid, but the feeling stuck with me. A few nights later, I was brushing my teeth when something else happened. I passed by the mirror on my way to bed and saw something that made me freeze. I had turned my head, but my reflection hadn't moved right away. It was barely noticeable, just a fraction of a second, like a lag in a video. But I saw it. I know I did. I stood there for a long time, staring at myself. The moment I focused too hard, my reflection moved exactly as I did. No delay, nothing strange. But I couldn't shake the feeling that if I hadn't caught it at the right moment, I never would have noticed. I told myself I was just tired. Maybe I had imagined it. But after that night, I started avoiding looking at the mirror directly. It was just a weird gut feeling. Every time I passed by, I had this quiet, creeping sense that if I turned my head too fast, I'd catch something I wasn't supposed to see. Then, the sound started. Late at night, when the house was completely silent, I'd hear something from the hallway. Soft, almost impossible to notice. Like the sound of fingertips tapping on glass. The first time, I ignored it. The second time, I sat up in bed and listened. It was so faint I thought I might be imagining it. But the third night, I heard something that made my stomach drop. A quiet sigh. Not loud, not aggressive, just soft breathing, like someone standing right in front of the mirror, just on the other side of the glass. I didn't check. I told myself it was nothing. I pulled my blankets over my head, squeezed my eyes shut, and waited for morning. I should have moved the mirror then. I should have covered it, taken it outside, done something. But I didn't. I told myself it was all in my head. That's what people do, right? When something doesn't make sense, we rationalize it. Blame it on stress, bad sleep, anything but the obvious. The night I saw it move, I stopped rationalizing. It was late, maybe around 2 a.m. I had gotten up to get a glass of water. The house was dark except for the faint glow of the street lamp outside. As I passed the hallway, I felt it before I saw it. That strange, skin-crawling sense of being watched. I stopped. I don't know why. I could have kept walking. Should have. But something in me said, look. So I did. At first, everything seemed normal. My reflection stood there, staring back at me, half lit by the dim light. My face was blank, my hair messy from sleep. But then, it blinked. I didn't. It was the smallest thing, just a single flicker, but I felt it deep in my chest. I froze. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My reflection just stood there, looking back at me, doing nothing now. Perfectly in sync. I raised my hand slowly. It did the same. I turned my head. It followed. But my skin was crawling. I had seen it. I knew I had. Then, just as I was about to step back, it smiled. My own face, stretching into a slow, deliberate smile, one I wasn't making. My legs moved before my brain did. I stumbled backward, nearly dropping the glass in my hand. I did not look back. I went straight to my room, locked the door, and sat on the bed, gripping the sheets like a child. My heart was pounding. I kept telling myself, it didn't happen. You're sleep deprived. You imagined it. But I didn't sleep. Not that night. Not with that thing in the hallway. After that night, everything got worse. I avoided the hallway as much as I could. I didn't look at the mirror. I didn't even walk near it. But the feeling that something was off never left me. Then the nightmares started. At first, they were just flashes, dark shapes, shifting movements, the feeling of something standing too close. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, but I could shake it off, tell myself it was just a bad dream. Then came the sleep paralysis. The first time, I woke up in the middle of the night, completely still. I tried to move, but I couldn't. I could breathe, I could blink, but that was it. I was stuck. I heard something, not loud, not obvious, just the softest sound like fabric shifting, footsteps against the floor. The worst part? I wasn't alone in the room. I could feel it. I couldn't see anything at first, just the darkness of my bedroom. But then, the mirror. It was supposed to be in the hallway, but somehow, I knew it was closer now. Not in front of me, not against the wall, beside the bed, and something was in it. I couldn't look. I wanted to. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to turn my head, to check, to confirm what I already knew. But some deeper part of me whispered, don't let it know you're awake. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it was over. I gasped and shot upright, my body finally my own again. My room was normal. The mirror was still in the hallway. But I swear, as I sat there catching my breath, I heard it, a faint rustling, like someone stepping away from the bed. I didn't sleep again that night. At this point, I knew something was wrong. But what was I supposed to do? Call someone? Tell them my own reflection was moving on its own? They'd either laugh or tell me I needed sleep. So I did nothing. I tried to ignore it. I tried to go about my life as if everything was normal. But it didn't let me. The reflection was getting bolder. It started small, little things I might have missed if I wasn't already watching. A blink at the wrong time. A hand twitched before mine moved. But then it got worse. One night, I caught it standing wrong. I was heading to the kitchen and happened to glance at the mirror. I stopped. Something was off. I turned back slowly, staring at my reflection. It looked normal. Same clothes. Same posture. Except, my arms. They were supposed to be at my sides. But in the mirror, my reflection's arms were slightly lifted, fingers curled, like it had just moved and was waiting for me to catch up. I felt sick. I raised my hand carefully. It did the same. I moved my head. It followed. But the delay was back. Just a second too slow. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed an old bedsheet, threw it over the mirror, and walked away without looking back. For the first time in weeks, I felt relief, like I had trapped something inside. But that was a mistake. Because that night, I woke up to the sound of something shifting in the hallway. Soft, dragging footsteps. A slow creak, like weight shifting on the floorboards. I didn't move. I held my breath, listening. Then, a deep, quiet exhale, right outside my bedroom door. I waited, stared at the door, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. The footsteps didn't move away. They didn't get closer. They just stopped. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. After that, I knew I had to get rid of it. The mirror wasn't just haunted. It was doing something to me, watching me, learning. And now, it wasn't just in the mirror anymore. I avoided the hallway completely. If I had to pass by, I never looked. I wouldn't even glance in that direction. But the noises didn't stop. Every night, the same sounds. The soft shuffling footsteps. The faintest tap against glass. The heavy, slow breathing. Then, on the final night, it all escalated. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the sounds to start. My body was exhausted, but my mind was wired. I could feel the tension, like the air was too thick. But that night, there were no sounds. No tapping. No breathing. Nothing. The silence was worse. I waited, my body on edge, every muscle locked in place. I don't know how long I laid there before I finally turned my head toward the door. The sheet was gone. I don't know how. I never touched it. But the mirror was uncovered again, and something was standing in front of it. I couldn't see it directly, just the way its shape stretched out across the floor from the mirror's reflection. A shape that looked exactly like me. I was frozen. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, but somehow I knew it was watching me, waiting for me to get up. I don't know where I found the strength, but I did the only thing I could think of. I jumped out of bed, grabbed the nearest blanket, and threw it over the mirror again. Then I dragged it out of the hallway, down the stairs, and into the basement. I didn't stop. I didn't think. I just shoved it into the corner, covered it with more sheets, turned off the light, and slammed the door shut. I stood there for a long time, just listening. At first, silence. Then, a slow, deliberate knock. Just one. I walked away and never opened that door again. It's still down there. I don't go into the basement anymore. I haven't opened that door since the night I locked the mirror inside. I don't even walk past it if I don't have to. But sometimes, late at night, I hear it. Soft movements. A faint rustling like fabric shifting. Sometimes, if the house is too quiet, I swear I hear a whisper. It's never loud, never obvious, just enough for me to know it's still there. I've thought about getting rid of it, but every time I try, something stops me. I don't know if it's fear or something else. Maybe I'm scared that if I touch it again, it'll be waiting. So I'm sharing this because no one believes me. They say it's just a mirror, that I'm imagining things, that I let my mind get carried away. Maybe they're right. But if you really think this is just a story, if you don't believe me, then come take it for yourself. It's free. I won't stop you. But once you take it, it's yours. Don't bring it back. So, what do you think? Was this just a trick of the mind? A case of paranoia? Or is there something else hiding behind the glass? Something we weren't meant to see? If you have a story, something strange, unexplained, or truly terrifying, send it to us. Our email is in the description below. I'll read the best ones here on the channel. And who knows? Maybe your story will be the next one that keeps everyone awake at night. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next.